The 2-second reset. Take control of your emotions. Take control of your life. 2 seconds between what happens and how you respond. In that window lies your entire life. Your peace, your power, your control. Most people waste it. They react, explode, spiral, and regret. But the masters? They own it. They pause, breathe, and respond with intention. This audiobook is your training ground. Because when you learn to master those 2 seconds, you stop being controlled by emotion and start commanding your destiny. Welcome to the 2-second reset. Chapter 1. The gap between trigger and response. There's a split second that determines the direction of your entire day. A gap so small you almost miss it. But inside that gap, everything changes. Something happens. Someone cuts you off, a coworker disrespects you, a message ruins your mood before you even finish reading it. That's the trigger. But what happens next? That's your response. And between the two lies the gap, the 2-second window that separates the emotionally weak from the emotionally strong. Most people never see the gap. They live on autopilot. They feel the spark, and they explode. They feel hurt, and they lash out. They feel fear, and they hide. They let the trigger define them, but not you, not anymore. Because starting today, you're going to see the gap and own it. The truth is simple. You are not your emotion. You are not your reaction. You are the one choosing the reaction. The problem? Most people never pause long enough to realize they have a choice. They move too fast. They live reactive lives. Something happens, and boom, they fire back, defend, attack. Regret, that's emotional autopilot. And autopilot destroys peace, relationships, and progress. But there's good news. Autopilot can be turned off. It starts with awareness. The moment something triggers you, there's a tiny pause, a flicker of awareness that whispers, "Wait, don't move yet." That flicker is your power. That flicker is the 2-second reset. Let's get scientific for a moment. When you get triggered, your amygdala, the emotional center of your brain, fires first. It's fast, impulsive, primal. It doesn't think. It reacts. But the rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, comes online a few seconds later. That's your control center. That's the part that says, "Don't say that. Don't send that text. Don't throw away your peace." You see where this is going? That's the gap. Those 2 seconds between the emotional impulse and the logical response. If you react inside that window, you lose control. If you pause, you take it back. That's the entire foundation of emotional mastery. That's the secret of calm people, confident people, disciplined people. They don't suppress emotion. They direct it. They don't fight the trigger. They observe it. And they always choose their response. Let's make it practical. You wake up. Your phone is full of notifications. Someone left a rude comment. You feel the heat rise. In that moment, before you reply, before you defend, pause. 2 seconds. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. And ask one question. Is this worth my peace? That's it. That's your reset, or you're in a meeting. Someone undermines you. You feel disrespected. 2 seconds, pause, breathe, choose. You don't need to react to every disrespect. You don't need to prove yourself every time you're challenged. Because here's the truth. You can't control people. You can only control your space between trigger and response. That's your power zone. That's where emotional maturity is built. Here's a mental exercise. Next time you feel your pulse spike, imagine a small pause button floating in front of you. See it, press it, and in that space, remind yourself, I'm not being controlled, I'm choosing. Say it out loud if you have. 2, because repetition rewires your response. You train your emotions the same way you train your body, through discipline and consistency. Every time you pause, you strengthen the muscle of control. Every time you react, you strengthen the chain of chaos. So choose your reps wisely. Let's be honest, this isn't easy. You'll fail. You'll catch yourself reacting, snapping, losing it. But even that moment is training. Awareness after the reaction is still growth. You're building recognition. You're shortening the distance between trigger and control. That's progress. That's how mastery starts. Not in perfection, but in awareness. So don't beat yourself up for failing. Celebrate every time you notice. Because noticing means the 2-second reset is starting to work. Here's a story to anchor it. A Navy SEAL once said, "In a crisis, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your level of training." That's emotional control in real life. When chaos hits, you don't suddenly become calm. You fall back on what you've practiced. If you've practiced reacting, you'll react. If you've practiced pausing, you'll pause. That's why this isn't theory. It's training. Every day, the world gives you reps, tiny emotional challenges that build your mental control. The driver who cuts you off, the coworker who takes credit, the family member who pushes your buttons. Each one is a test. Each one is a trigger. Each one gives you 2 seconds to prove who's really in charge. You have to decide right now. Are you going to live reacting to everything, or are you going to lead yourself through everything? Because control isn't about emotionlessness. It's about choice. It's about using emotion as data, not direction. It's about turning that 2-second space into your strongest habit. And here's the paradox. When you master your response, life feels lighter. You stop chasing control in other people and start finding control in yourself. You stop saying, "They made me angry," and start saying, "I chose calm." That's growth. That's freedom. Say this to yourself every morning. Between what happens and how I respond, I have a choice. In that choice lies my peace, my power, and my growth. Repeat it until it becomes your instinct. Pause, breathe, choose. That's the mantra. That's the system. That's the reset. You don't need anyone's permission to pause. You don't need anyone's approval to choose peace. You only need 2 seconds and the discipline to use them. Remember this. The emotionally reactive are slaves to circumstance. The emotionally disciplined are masters of their fate. It's not about being perfect. It's about being aware. It's about seeing the gap and stepping into it. That's where your transformation begins. That's where you stop being a reactor and start being a commander of your own mind. You've learned to find the space between trigger and response. Now it's time to learn how to control the energy that floods through it. Chapter 2. Emotion is energy. Direct it or drown in it. Emotion is not weakness. Emotion is energy. Raw, powerful, neutral. What you do with that energy, that's what defines you. Because emotion doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care if you're a CEO, a soldier, a parent, or a monk. It's neutral fuel, unchanneled. It destroys. Directed, it builds. The problem? Most people never learn to direct it. They drown in it. You've seen it before. A man lets his anger ruin his career. A woman lets fear stop her from chasing the life she wants. A leader lets frustration poison their team. A parent lets stress become their child's burden. Every one of those moments has the same root cause: uncontrolled energy. Emotion hits like a surge, an electric current, and if you don't know how to ground it, it burns everything in its path. You can't stop the current. You can only channel it. That's the key. Anger is energy. Fear is energy. Excitement, frustration, sadness, all energy. And here's the truth. You need that energy. You need anger to fuel justice. You need fear to sharpen focus. You need sadness to birth compassion. The goal isn't to kill emotion, it's to convert it. Conversion. Not suppression. That's emotional mastery. You don't suppress the wave, you surf it. You don't deny the current, you direct it. That's what separates the reactive from the relentless. Look at the world's peak performers, a fighter in the ring, surgeon in the operating room, a CEO before a high-stakes deal. They all feel emotion. They feel fear. They feel adrenaline. They feel pressure, but they've trained to transmute it into performance. A fighter doesn't say, "I'm scared." He says, "I'm alert." A surgeon doesn't say, "I'm nervous." She says, "I'm focused." A leader doesn't say, "I'm stressed." He says, "I'm ready." They've learned that emotion is just data, neutral information, and energy waiting for direction. That's your new frame. Emotion is fuel. You decide where it flows. Here's a truth most people never hear. You can't get rid of emotion. You can only redirect it. That's why ignoring how you feel never works. That's why bottling things up explodes later. Energy demands motion. If you don't give it direction, it will find one, often destructive. So when anger shows up, don't suppress it, ask it, "Where can I use this?" Turn it into drive. Turn it into discipline. Turn it into intensity toward your goals. When fear shows up, don't deny it. Ask it, "What is this warning me about?" Turn it into focus. Turn it into preparation. Turn it into strategy. You see the pattern? You're not at war with your emotion. You're the commander of it. Let's make it practical. You get angry at work. Someone disrespected you. That's energy rising. Most people dump it into gossip, arguments, or resentment. You, however, redirect it. You take that same fire and say, "I'm going to earn results so undeniable they can't ignore me." That's redirection. That's power. Or maybe you're scared of failing, scared of trying. You take that fear and say, "This feeling means I care. This energy will make me prepare better than anyone else." That's how emotion becomes performance fuel. You don't drown in it. You drive with it. Emotion is energy, but control requires discipline. You can't control emotion in the moment if you've never trained control outside of it. That's why daily discipline matters. Every time you do what's hard, every time you delay gratification, every time you breathe through irritation, you're teaching your nervous system, "I'm in charge." You're building emotional muscle memory. You're proving that the energy inside you works for you, not against you. It's not about suppression. It's about redirection. It's not about denial. It's about command. That's emotional leadership. Now, here's a paradox. The stronger your emotion, the more potential power you hold. The same energy that causes chaos can create miracles if you channel it. Take the anger that breaks relationships and turn it into the passion that builds a business. Take the sadness that isolates and turn it into empathy that connects you to others. Take the fear that freezes and turn it into focus that saves lives. Emotion, different direction. Energy is energy. You're the one assigning the mission. So how do you start training this? Here's the 3-step process. Step 1. Label it. Say it out loud. This is anger. This is fear. This is frustration. Labeling separates you from the emotion. It gives you control. Step 2. Locate it. Feel where it lives in your body, your chest, your stomach, your throat. Awareness grounds the energy instead of letting it spill out. Step 3. Redirect it. Ask, "Where can this energy go that serves me?" Write, run, create, speak, build. Emotion is motion, so move it in the right direction. That's the practice. Simple, daily. Repeat until instinct. You don't need therapy every time you feel emotion. You need strategy. You need awareness. You need a mission for your Energy, emotion without direction is chaos. Emotion with direction is power. That's the difference between breakdown and breakthrough. So the next time you feel that surge, remember, you have a choice. You always have a choice. Don't drown in the energy. Direct it. Say it out loud. Energy doesn't control me. I command where it flows. Repeat that until your mind believes it, because belief becomes reflex, and reflex becomes control. Emotion isn't your enemy. It's your greatest untapped power. You just have to lead it. That's the essence of this chapter. Don't fight emotion. Don't bury emotion. Don't fear emotion. Command it. Because every time you redirect emotion towards something that builds instead of breaks, you level up your life. You become unshakable, unstoppable, unbothered. That's not luck. That's leadership. Emotional leadership. You've learned to see your emotions as energy, neutral, powerful, and under your command. Now it's time to take that awareness deeper. Because control isn't just about energy. It's about stillness. You've built the foundation of emotional control. Next, we'll learn how to anchor it through stillness, presence, and the discipline of pause. You've learned to direct your fire. Now, let's master the moment before the fire ever starts. Chapter 3. The Power of the Pause. Stillness isn't weakness, it's power under control. 2 seconds. That's all it takes to shift from chaos to clarity, from reaction to response, from weakness to strength. In those 2 seconds, you pause, and in that pause, you take back control. That's the 2-second reset. That's the discipline that rewires everything. Because the truth is simple. You can't control the world. You can't control people. But you can always control your pause. Let's be honest. Most people live as if they're on emotional autopilot. Something happens, and they react instantly. They speak before they think. They decide before they breathe. They regret before they reflect. They're fast but fragile. You don't want to live like that, because speed without awareness is destruction. The pause slows time down. It creates space between what happens and how you choose to respond. And in that space, you find your power. Let's break it down. The pause isn't about hesitation. It's about control. It's not about freezing. It's about observing. When you pause, you're telling your brain, we're not reacting. We're responding. You're interrupting the emotional autopilot. You're creating a moment of choice. And that's the key. Choice. You can't change the trigger, but you can change what happens next. You can't stop anger from rising, but you can stop it from taking over. You can't erase the pressure, but you can decide how to use it. That's what the pause gives you. The authority to choose clarity over chaos. Here's the science. The human brain runs on a delay. When something triggers you, your amygdala, the emotional center, fires first. It wants instant reaction, instant defense, instant comfort. But the prefrontal cortex, the logical part, needs time to activate. About 2 seconds. Those 2 seconds are your window. If you pause, your logical brain catches up. If you don't, your emotions run the show. So when you pause, you're not being passive. You're giving your higher self time to step in. That's the difference between reaction and response, between panic and power, between regret and composure. Let's go. Practical. You're in an argument. You feel your voice rising, your heart pounding. You're ready to say something sharp, something you'll regret. That's the moment. That's where you train the pause. Stop. Breathe in. Count to 2. Feel your feet on the ground. Those 2 seconds will save you hours of regret. The power of the pause doesn't just calm your emotion, it changes the outcome. Because when you pause, the other person feels your control, and that energy disarms chaos. You win not by being louder, but by being slower. Here's another example. You get an email that makes your blood boil. Your instinct is to fire back, to prove your point, to show them they can't talk to you like that. Pause, do nothing, wait 2 minutes, reread it. Notice how different it feels after the surge fades. That's the pause at work. It saves relationships, reputations, and peace of mind. Now, apply this to bigger decisions. You want to quit your job, end a relationship, make a huge move. You're emotional. You're flooded. You're tired. That's not the time to decide. Pause. Sleep. On it, think in silence, because emotional decisions are rarely accurate decisions. The pause gives your logic time to breathe. It lets truth rise through the noise. That's how leaders think. That's how disciplined people live. Not reacting, responding. Here's the truth. The pause is not natural. It's trained. It takes practice to stay still when your emotions scream for action. It takes maturity to breathe when everything inside you wants to explode. That's discipline. That's strength. You train it. Daily micro pauses. Tiny moments of stillness. When someone cuts you off in traffic, pause. When your phone buzzes with bad news, pause. When your child tests your patience, pause. Every pause rewires your nervous system. Every pause tells your brain, we are in control. You're building a reflex of calm, a pattern of power. Think of monks. They don't live calm lives because life spares them. They live calm lives because they master pause. Think of elite soldiers. They don't stay cool under pressure by accident. They train to pause before pulling the trigger, before acting on adrenaline. Think of great CEOs. They make billion-dollar decisions by pausing to ask, what am I missing? Stillness creates wisdom. Speed creates mistakes. The next time someone provokes you, don't match their speed. Drop below it. Slow down. See clearly. Respond with precision. That's emotional dominance. Now, here's something most people never realize. The pause isn't just an action, it's an identity. You become the kind of person who doesn't rush, who doesn't react, who doesn't lose composure. And that identity commands respect. People start to trust your presence. Your relationships stabilize. Your self-respect skyrockets because calm is power and power is quiet. Let's anchor this in a habit. Every morning, before you touch your phone, pause. 2 deep breaths. Remind yourself, today, I choose response over reaction. Throughout the day, set invisible checkpoints before you speak, before you send, before you decide. Pause. Make it your mantra. Pause first. Respond later. Always. Say it out loud. Repeat it until it becomes your instinct. Because when you train your pause, you train your peace. When you master your stillness, you master your strength. You don't need to react fast. You need to react right. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being intentional. It's not about avoiding life. It's about owning your reaction to it. You can't control the storm, but you can anchor yourself in the pause. That's what calm really means. Not emptiness, but control in motion. So the next time you feel the rush, remember, you have 2 seconds. 2 seconds to pause. 2 seconds to breathe. 2 seconds to rewrite the story. That's your power. That's your peace. The pause is the bridge between emotion and control, between instinct and intention, between reaction and response. Every time you pause, you win. Every time you rush, you lose a piece of yourself. So make stillness your weapon. Make awareness your edge. Because when everyone else is drowning in emotion, you'll be standing in calm command. Pause first. Respond later. Always. You've learned to pause before. Reacting to anchor yourself. Before emotion takes over. Now it's time to take that control even further, because once you've built awareness, the next step is to prepare for your triggers before they ever show up. You've learned to stop mid-storm. Now you'll learn how to predict the weather. Chapter 4. Train your triggers. You can't avoid your triggers. You can't run from them. You can't silence the world, but you can train your response, and that's where your power begins. Triggers are not the enemy. They're your teachers. They reveal where your emotional control is weakest. Every argument, every insult, every rejection, it's a test. A test you've been failing not because you're broken, but because you've never trained for it. That ends now. Step 1. Identify the enemy. Within every emotional explosion starts with a pattern. You think it's about what happened, but it's really about what you've rehearsed. Your brain doesn't react to reality. It reacts to repetition. If you've always met criticism with anger, your brain now fires anger before your conscious mind even knows why. If you've always met rejection with shutdown, your nervous system preloads that reaction the moment you feel left out. That's why awareness is the first step. You can't master what you can't see. So here's your first exercise. Grab a notebook. Write down the top 3 triggers that keep hijacking your peace. Don't overthink it. You already know what they are. Maybe it's when someone disrespects you. Maybe it's when plans fall apart. Maybe it's when someone doesn't text back. Those moments that light the fire inside you. Those are your training grounds. That's where emotional mastery is built, not in meditation retreats. Not in theory, but in the heat of real life. Because every time you get triggered, your emotions are inviting you to practice control. Every time you lose it, you miss the rep. And every time you pause, you strengthen the muscle. That's the key. Emotional control is not a gift. It's a muscle, and every trigger is a weight waiting for you to lift it. Step 2. Anticipate the storm. Before it hits, you can't train during the storm. You train before it. If you wait until anger floods your veins, you've already lost the first round. The goal is not to react better. It's to predict sooner. Think like a fighter. A fighter doesn't walk into the ring hoping not to get hit. He studies patterns. He anticipates the punch before it lands. He trains his reflex to counter before the opponent even finishes the move. That's what emotional mastery looks like. Anticipation, awareness, preparation. So, start by mentally rehearsing your triggers. Close your eyes. Picture that same conversation, that same situation. Feel the emotion start to rise. Then insert the 2-second reset, that sacred pause between the trigger and your reaction. Breathe. Step back mentally and say to yourself, I am not my emotion. I command where it flows. That's your 2-second ritual. And like any skill, it gets sharper with repetition. You can train it while driving. You can train it during arguments. You can even train it when you're alone. Imagining the moments that usually undo you. Because once your brain has rehearsed calmness in chaos, it starts to choose calmness by default. That's how you rewire the automatic reaction. That's how you shift from emotional victim to emotional commander. You don't eliminate triggers, you out-train them. Step 3, the visualization drill. Now let's take it deeper. Visualization isn't just for athletes or monks. It's the foundation of neural training. Your brain doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's vividly imagined. When you visualize a trigger and choose control, you're literally rewriting the code. You're teaching your nervous system a new reflex. Here's how to do it. Pick one trigger. The one that hits hardest. Maybe it's a specific person. Maybe it's traffic. Maybe it's feeling ignored. Replay the moment in detail. See it, feel it, hear it. Notice how your body tightens, your breath shortens, your thoughts race. Now pause the scene. This is your 2-second window. Breathe deeply once. Then again, picture yourself relaxing your shoulders, lowering your tone. Imagine saying the exact thing that reflects composure, not chaos. Anchor it with a phrase. Repeat it until it burns into your nervous system. Energy doesn't control me. I command where it flows. That's the discipline, and discipline beats impulse every time. The more vividly you rehearse calmness, the more naturally it appears in real life. That's the science of neural plasticity. That's how your brain learns who's in charge. You, not the trigger. Step 4. Redefine the meaning of triggers. Here's the truth. Triggers aren't insults. They're invitations. They're not proof that you're weak. They're proof that you're aware. Because people who never notice their triggers are the ones completely ruled by them. When you get triggered, it means your consciousness just caught your programming in action. That's not failure. That's feedback. So stop saying, "They made me angry." No one makes you anything. They just presented. The moment you chose the meaning, you have a choice. That's the key. It's not about trying to avoid the fire. It's about walking through it without burning down your peace. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need external validation to feel centered. You just need 2 seconds of awareness. Before you let the old program run, every trigger is a mirror, and when you start studying your reflection instead of reacting to it, you evolve. That's emotional intelligence in its purest form. Not knowing what you feel, but choosing what you do with it. Step 5. Turn training into a lifestyle. Training. Your triggers isn't a one-time exercise. It's a lifestyle. It's waking up every day knowing the world will test you, and seeing that as practice, not punishment. It's taking pride in your composure the same way others take pride in their achievements. It's building a new identity, someone unshakable, unreactive, unstoppable. Remember, you don't become emotionally strong by avoiding life. You become strong by facing it. With discipline, you have a choice. Every single time. That's the key. Pause, breathe, choose. That's your training. That's your edge. That's how you take back command. Transition. You've trained your triggers. You've learned to anticipate the storm instead of being swallowed by it. But there's another battlefield most people ignore. The battlefield of thought. Because after the emotion comes the narrative, and if you don't master your thoughts, your triggers will find new ways to rule you. Let's go deeper. Chapter 5. The voice in your head isn't you. There's a voice in your head. You know it. You hear it. It talks all day, every day. But here's the truth. That voice isn't you. It sounds like you. It uses your tone. It borrows your fears, your doubts, your memories. But it's not you. It's your conditioning. That voice is built from every insecurity you've ever heard, every judgment you've ever received, every failure you've ever replayed. It's your brain trying to protect you by predicting pain before it happens. But what it really does is chain you to fear. You are not the voice. You are the one hearing the voice. That's the shift that changes everything. Step 1. Your brain speaks. Fear. Your brain has one job. Keep you alive, not happy. Not fulfilled. Just alive. So it constantly scans for threats. Real or imagined. That's why it whispers. Don't try that. Don't speak up. Don't take that risk. That's your survival system, not your soul. It's ancient wiring, a leftover from when fear meant life or death. Now it just misfires. It interprets embarrassment as danger, failure as death. That's why you overthink. That's why you hold back. That's why you stay stuck. but listen carefully. Fear is not an enemy. It's just a signal. It's your brain saying, pay attention. It's not saying, retreat. You have a choice. That's the key. The voice of fear will always speak first. But awareness, your awareness, gets to decide the final word. When you feel fear rise, don't fight it. Don't obey it. Just watch it. Say to yourself, this is my brain trying to protect me. I see it. I'm safe. That's emotional intelligence. In motion. The ability to observe without becoming. Step 2. The observer versus the reactor. Here's the difference. Between the person who controls their emotions and the person controlled by them, one observes. The other reacts. The observer steps back. The reactor gets pulled in. The observer feels anger, but doesn't become anger. The reactor is anger. The observer feels doubt, but doesn't. Let it dictate action. The reactor feels doubt and immediately retreats. So when the voice in your head starts talking, pause. You already know what it sounds like. You're not ready. You'll mess this up. They'll judge you. That's not the truth. That's just a habit of thought. You've rehearsed it for years. Now it's time to break the script. Here's how you do it. When that voice speaks, don't argue. Don't wrestle. Just say, I hear you, but I'm not you. Then act anyway. Because every time you act despite the voice, you prove who's in charge. It's not about silencing fear. It's about leading through fear. That's discipline. That's mastery. Step 3. The language of awareness. The brain speaks the language of fear. Awareness speaks the language of control. Your brain says, what if it goes wrong? Awareness says, what if it goes right? Your brain says, I'm not enough. Awareness says, that's a story, not a fact. Your brain says, I can't handle this. Awareness says, watch me. The more you identify with awareness, the less control the brain has. It's not about forcing positive thinking at that surface level. It's about remembering that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. You are the still point behind the noise. The key is practice, because awareness isn't a one-time insight. It's a daily workout. Throughout the day, catch yourself thinking and ask, who's talking right now, the voice or me? Every time you ask that question, you separate your identity from your impulse. You reclaim space. You reclaim choice. And in that space, peace lives. Step 4. Train your inner dialogue. Let's get tactical. If you don't train the voice, it trains you. You need to reprogram your inner dialogue, word by word. Start with the affirmation. I am the observer, not the reactor. Repeat it out loud, slowly, powerfully. Feel the truth of it in your body. Then start replacing the voice's old patterns with new commands. When it says, I can't, you say, I'm learning. When it says, this is too hard, you say, this is how I grow. When it says, I always mess up, you say, I'm improving every time. You're not faking positivity. You're rewiring control. You're teaching your mind to serve your mission, not sabotage it. Remember this, it's not about perfection. It's about direction. You just need to interrupt the old pattern long enough for a new one to form. That's why awareness is everything. You can't change what you don't notice. Step 5. Mastery. Through observation you want power. Learn to watch without reacting. That's what monks, elite athletes, and top CEOs all have in common. They've trained their awareness to stay still, no matter how loud the noise gets. Because when you stop reacting to your thoughts, you start directing them, and that's when you take command of your life. Imagine you're sitting by a river. The water is your stream of thoughts. They come, they go. You don't chase them. You don't fight them. You just watch. That's presence. That's control. And when you live from that space, nothing owns you anymore. Not anger, not fear, not anxiety. You become the stillness beneath the storm, and that stillness is strength. You don't need their permission to be calm. You don't need validation to feel powerful. You just need awareness, because awareness is choice. You have a choice, always. That's the key. Step 6, daily practice. Here's how to make this real. Morning reset. Before you touch your phone, sit in silence for 1 minute. Notice the first thought that arises. Label it. Thought, then let it pass. The 2-second check. Every time you feel emotion spike, pause for 2 seconds, breathe, ask, who's speaking, me or my fear? Evening reflection. Before bed, write down one moment where you caught the voice and chose control instead. That's progress. That's how you train awareness into reflex. These are not small steps. They are the foundation of emotional mastery. Because every time you choose observation over reaction, you reclaim power. Every time you choose awareness over impulse, you rewire identity. You're not here to be ruled by thoughts. You're here to direct them. Closing and transition. The voice in your head isn't you. It's noise. It's programming. It's history pretending to be truth. But you are awareness. You are the observer. You are the calm center behind the chaos. And when you live from that truth, you no longer chase control. You are control. You've learned to separate from the voice. Now, it's time to take the next step, to use that silence to sharpen your focus. Because emotional mastery isn't just about calmness, it's about clarity. Let's go there. Chapter 6. Emotional momentum. How small reactions become spirals one moment. That's all it takes to lose control. One text, one tone, one comment. You wake up fine. Then something small hits wrong. And suddenly, your entire day collapses. You replay it in your head. You justify it. You feed it. That's emotional momentum, the invisible force that turns seconds of emotion into hours, even days of chaos. And until you learn to interrupt that momentum, it will keep dragging you into emotional storms you didn't choose. Step 1. The hidden physics of emotion. Emotion is energy. Once it's in motion, it stays in motion, unless you consciously stop it. That's the cascade effect. A single unchecked reaction rolls forward, picking up speed, intensity, and destruction as it goes. It starts with something tiny, a look, a delay, a tone. You feel it. Then your mind attaches a story. They don't respect me. Then your body responds. Your chest tightens. Your breath shortens. Now you're in it. You're no longer responding to the situation. You're reacting to your story about it. That's the trap. Because once emotion starts gaining momentum, logic takes the back seat. Your brain switches from reason to defense, from awareness to reaction, from clarity to chaos. You've seen this play out before. You say one sharp word, and it turns into an argument. You send one impulsive message, and regret it seconds later. You dwell on one thought, and it ruins your focus for hours. That's not bad luck. That's poor emotional physics, and physics follows rules, which means if you can understand the rule, you can control the motion. Step 2. The 2-second law of interruption. Here's the key. Every emotional spiral begins with a moment, and every moment contains a window of 2 seconds. That's your reset point. 2 seconds before your mouth opens. 2 seconds before your thumb hits send. 2 seconds before you feed the thought. Again. That's where emotional mastery is born. You don't need to control the entire storm, just the first gust of wind. Because once you pause, even for 2 seconds, you interrupt momentum. You stop the energy from snowballing. You regain choice. Say it to yourself. Pause. Breathe. Choose. That's your armor. That's your pattern breaker. It's not about never feeling emotion. It's about refusing to let emotion drive. You have a choice. That's the key. Step 3. The real-world spiral. Let's get practical. Imagine you get a short, cold message from someone you care about. Your brain instantly interprets it. They're angry. They're ignoring me. Now emotion surges. Your body tightens. Your thoughts start spinning. Within seconds, your mind builds a full narrative that doesn't even exist. You replay old moments. You add meaning. You predict outcomes. Now, what started as one text, one, has consumed your mental state. That's emotional momentum. Or imagine you're in traffic. Someone cuts you off. You feel disrespected. You take it personally, and instead of letting it go, you let the anger expand. You start muttering. Now your focus is gone. Your day is tinted red. The incident ended 10 seconds ago. But your reaction, it's still running. That's the difference between an event and a spiral. Events end. Spirals feed themselves, and every time you let a small spark grow into a fire, you train your brain to stay reactive. You reinforce chaos. But when you interrupt the pattern early, when you pause, you train your brain to stay grounded. You reinforce control. It's not about perfection. It's about interception. Step 4. The interruption. Toolkit. Here's how to stop emotional spirals before they take over. The label technique. When emotion rises, name it out loud. This is anger. This is frustration. This is fear. The moment you name it, you separate from it. You move from being the emotion to observing it. That's control. The grounding breath. One deep breath through your nose. Hold for 2 seconds. Exhale slowly. Do it again. You're not just breathing. You're resetting your nervous system. You're telling your body, I'm safe. Stand down. The interrupt phrase. Have a mental command ready. Something short, sharp, decisive. Not today. Pause. Control the flow. These are anchors. Use them like emotional brakes. The physical reset. Move. Get up. Stretch. Walk. Drink water. Motion changes emotion. Your physiology drives your psychology. Shift your body, and your mind follows. These techniques are small, but they're powerful because they're interruptive. They break the flow of emotional energy before it becomes a flood. Remember, emotion wants momentum. Don't give it what it wants. Step 5. The cost of unchecked emotion. Let's be brutally honest. Every time you let emotion run unchecked, it costs you. It costs you time. It costs you focus. It costs you relationships. You can't lead, build, or grow from a reactive state. You can only survive there. And survival mode kills creativity, discipline, and vision. Unchecked emotion makes you impulsive. Impulsivity makes you inconsistent. Inconsistency kills trust in others and in yourself. That's the real damage of emotional momentum. It doesn't just ruin moments. It erodes identity. But the moment you reclaim that 2-second pause, you reclaim your power, because power doesn't come from never getting triggered. It comes from never letting a trigger own you. You don't need their permission to be calm. You don't need perfect circumstances to stay in control. You just need awareness, pause, breathe, choose. That's the key. Step 6. Build emotional endurance. Stopping a spiral once is progress. Stopping it daily is mastery. Emotional. Endurance is built through repetition, like training a muscle. The more often you interrupt the spiral, the faster your nervous system learns stability. So, make it a game. Count how many spirals you prevent in a week. Notice how many hours of peace you earn just by pausing. That's not luck. That's leadership over yourself. Because emotional mastery is not about suppression. It's about direction. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about refusing to drown in what doesn't deserve your energy. Emotion is energy. You can direct it into reaction, or you can redirect it into power. You have a choice every single time, and every choice compounds. That's how emotional strength is built. Not through denial, but through deliberate interruption. Closing and transition. One small reaction can ruin a day, or it can be the spark that builds your control. That's the truth. It's not about the moment. It's about the momentum you allow it to create. Pause early. Interrupt fast. Refuse to spiral. You've learned to stop your emotions from snowballing into chaos. Now it's time to learn how to turn that emotional stillness into direction, because control without purpose is just restraint, and your next evolution is learning how to channel that control toward what matters most. Let's go there. Chapter 7. Reframe the story. Reclaim the power. Every emotion you feel is tied to a story. Every story you tell yourself becomes your reality. It's not the event that controls you. It's the meaning you attach to it, and until you take control of the story will keep controlling you. That's the truth. Most people never face. They think life happens to them. They think pain means punishment. They think challenges mean failure. But that's not how strength is built. You don't grow through what happens. You grow through how you frame what happens. You have a choice, always. Step 1. The invisible script that runs your life right now. There's a story running in your mind. It's the one that plays when you make a mistake. It's the one that whispers when people let you down. It's the one that defines who you think you are. Maybe it says, "I'm not enough," or "people always leave," or "I can't win." Those aren't facts. They're interpretations. They're lenses you've been conditioned to look through, and those lenses distort reality. They take neutral events and turn them into emotional explosions. They make you reactive, defensive, drained. But when you change the story, you change everything attached to it. You shift from victim to strategist, from reaction to response, from emotion to execution. That's the power of reframing. Step 2. The formula of reframing is not pretending. It's not delusion. It's a discipline. It means taking the same event and assigning a new meaning, one that serves you, not destroys you. Here's the process. Event. Something happens. Someone criticizes you. You lose an opportunity. You fail a task. Story. Your mind creates meaning. They don't respect me. I'm not cut out for this. This always happens to me. Emotion. That story triggers a feeling. Anger, frustration, shame. But here's the key. The emotion is not from the event. It's from the story. So if you want to change how you feel, you don't need to change the event. You need to change the story. You have that power. Always. Try this reframe. This isn't happening to me. It's happening for me. Say it again. This isn't happening to me. It's happening for me. That single sentence flips the entire emotional narrative. It turns pain into preparation. It turns obstacles into instruction. It turns struggle into strategy. That's not fantasy. That's emotional control. Step 3. The real world. Reframe, let's break it down. You didn't get the job you wanted. Old. Story, I'm not good enough. New story, this wasn't my door. Something better is aligning. You got rejected. Old. Story, I'm not lovable. New. Story, they weren't aligned with my growth. You made a mistake. Old story, I failed again. New story, I just learned what doesn't work. The event didn't change. You did. And when you change, the entire emotional chain reaction changes with you. That's power. It's not about pretending. Bad things don't hurt. It's about deciding what those things mean going forward. You can't control every event, but you can always control the interpretation. That's the foundation of mental strength. Step 4, reframing, is reprogramming. Here's the truth. Every story you repeat becomes a belief, and every belief becomes your emotional operating system. You say something enough times, your brain starts looking for proof. You keep saying, I can't handle this, and your brain will prove you right. You start saying, I can adapt to anything, and your brain starts finding ways to back that up. That's the psychology of reframing, and it's self-directed. Programming, you are the author, the editor, the narrator. But most people let someone else write their script. Their parents, their boss, their past, and they never question the story. You need to start rewriting it actively, daily. When something happens, don't react. Ask yourself, what's another way to see this? What's the hidden advantage here? How is this shaping me? That's how you take back your mental real estate. That's how you reclaim your emotional power. You don't need their permission to rewrite the story. You just need the discipline to pause and choose a better one. Step 5. The emotional chemistry of reframing. Reframing isn't just mental, it's biological. When you change your story, you change your brain chemistry. You shift from cortisol to dopamine, from fear to focus. Why? Because the story you tell determines whether your brain perceives threat or challenge. Threat triggers panic. Challenge triggers performance. You can feel it. The moment you say, this is happening for me, your breathing slows. Your focus sharpens. You're no longer under attack. You're under construction. And when your brain knows it's building something, not defending something, your entire system stabilizes. That's the science of power. Step 6. The reframe practice. You don't master reframing once. You practice it until it becomes your default. Here's a simple daily exercise. Catch. Notice when emotion spikes. Frustration, fear, disappointment. Question. Ask. What story am I telling myself right now? Reframe. Replace it with one that serves you. Example. I'm overwhelmed. I'm being stretched into capacity. I'm being tested. I'm being trained. I'm losing everything. I'm being refined. That's how transformation works. One reframe at a time. It's not about ignoring pain. It's about assigning purpose to it. That's the difference between people who break and people who build. Step 7. The new default story. Every time you reframe, you weaken the old narrative. You starve it of attention, and attention is fuel. Soon, what used to trigger you becomes a teacher. What used to drain you becomes direction. What used to break you becomes blueprint. That's the shift. That's what real control looks like. Not silence, not suppression, but ownership. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? You start declaring, this is building me. That's emotional mastery in motion. You have a choice. Every story, every reaction, every moment. That's the key. Step 8. The power of the new story. Let's be clear. The world won't stop testing you. Life won't stop throwing chaos your way. But the moment you decide to reframe, you stop being the victim of circumstance. You become the creator of meaning. And that's where true freedom begins. Because when you control the story, you control the state, and when you control the state, you control the outcome. That's how leaders think. That's how warriors adapt. That's how disciplined minds win. Closing and transition. The world doesn't change when you reframe. You do, and when you change, the world starts responding differently. You've learned to rewrite the stories that shape your emotions. Now it's time to learn how to use that power to direct your life with precision, to act from clarity instead of reaction. Because the story gives meaning, but action gives momentum. Let's move there. Chapter 8. Emotional discipline is self-respect. Passion isn't losing control. Passion isn't exploding in anger. Passion isn't breaking down every time life tests you. That's not power, that's surrender. And every time you lose control of your emotions, you surrender your strength, your focus, your self-respect. Let's get something straight. Emotional discipline isn't suppression. It's not about burying feelings. It's about commanding them. It's about knowing exactly where your energy goes and making sure it serves your mission, not sabotages it. Because when you master emotional discipline, you stop reacting like a victim. You start responding like a leader. You have a choice every single time. Step 1. Emotion without discipline is self-destruction, let's be honest. You've seen people lose it, shouting in traffic, lashing out at someone they love, quitting in anger, or throwing away opportunities because they couldn't control what they felt in a moment. That's not emotion. That's chaos. And chaos always costs more than it gives. It costs you trust. It costs you relationships. It costs you time, energy, and sometimes everything you've built. Because emotions are powerful. They're pure energy, but without direction, that energy explodes instead of builds. Think of a fire, controlled. It cooks your food, heats your home, lights your path. Uncontrolled, it burns everything to the ground. That's your emotion. Fire, beautiful, powerful, dangerous. Without discipline, it consumes you. With discipline, it fuels you. That's the key. Step 2. Discipline is the highest form of self-love. People love to talk about self-love. They imagine candles, soft music, and bubble baths. That's comfort. Not self-love. Real self-love looks like this. You don't let temporary emotions destroy permanent progress. You don't say what feels good now but hurts later. You don't chase chaos just because it feels familiar. That's discipline. And discipline is love. Love for your future. Love for your peace. Love for your potential. When you discipline your emotions, you're saying, I'm not here to be controlled by impulses. I'm here to build something that lasts. You protect your energy like it's sacred. Because it is. You protect your focus like it's oxygen. Because it is. You don't need anyone's permission to do that. You just need respect for yourself. Every time you hold your tongue instead of reacting, you're showing respect. Every time you choose logic over ego, you're showing respect. Every time you pause before you speak, you're saying, I value peace more than proving a point. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Step 3. The cost of emotional neglect. Let's get brutally honest. Every outburst you justify, every reaction you defend, every tantrum you excuse, it all adds up. Because emotional neglect doesn't just destroy moments, it destroys momentum. You can't move forward if you're constantly fighting. Fires you started yourself. You can't grow if your energy is always spent repairing what your reactions broke. And you know this. You've seen it. One angry text ruins a day. impulsive decision derails a plan, one emotional spiral drains a week. That's how people stay stuck. Not because life's unfair, but because they keep giving power to emotions that haven't earned it. You don't need to suppress emotion. You need to train it. You need to teach your emotions how to serve your purpose, not hijack it. That's discipline. Step 4. How to train your emotional discipline. Let's make it practical. Here's how you build emotional discipline. Day by day. Step 1. Observe. When emotion rises, pause. Don't label it as good or bad. Just watch. Say to yourself, something's trying to control me. Let me see what it is. That simple awareness creates space, and in that space, power is born. Step 2. Name it. Don't say, I'm angry. Say, anger is present. See the difference? You're not becoming the emotion. You're observing it. Step 3. Redirect. Take that emotion and move it. Channel anger into action. Channel fear into focus. Channel sadness into structure. You don't run from emotion. You recruit it. You make it work for you. That's how soldiers keep composure under pressure. That's how athletes stay calm under lights. That's how disciplined people build consistency while everyone else breaks. Emotion doesn't disappear. It just learns who's in charge. Step 5. Your emotions serve you, or they sabotage you. Repeat this until it's burned into your brain. My emotions serve me. They don't sabotage me. Say it again. My emotions serve me. They don't sabotage me. Every emotion you feel is trying to tell you something, but not everyone deserves your reaction. Some emotions are signals, others are distractions. You have to know the difference. Anger might be a signal that you care. Fear might be a signal that you're stepping into growth. Jealousy might be a signal that you've stopped using your potential, but reacting blindly to any of them, that's sabotage. So learn to separate the signal from the storm. That's emotional maturity. That's real control. It's not about being cold. It's about being clear, because clarity beats chaos every single time. Step 6. Emotional discipline in action. Let's put this into real-world context. You're in an argument. Your heart's racing. You want to win. You want to be right. Pause. Ask yourself, do I want to win this argument, or do I want to protect my peace? That's emotional discipline. You're under pressure at work. Everything's falling apart. You want to snap? Pause. Ask, will this reaction move me closer to my goal or pull me further away? That's emotional discipline. You read a negative comment online. You want to clap back. Pause. Ask, does my attention feed this or starve it? That's emotional discipline. The formula is simple. Pause. Question. Decide. That's how you stop reacting and start responding. Because you have a choice. Always. Step 7. The reward of restraint. Here's what no one tells you. Emotional control feels incredible. Not because you're suppressing yourself, but because you're free. Free from impulsive guilt. Free from regret. Free from the constant emotional hangover of losing control. It feels like quiet power. It feels like peace. And once you taste that, chaos feels cheap. You stop chasing drama because stability starts to feel better. You stop overreacting because calm becomes addictive. That's emotional evolution. That's self-respect. In its purest form, you don't need validation. You don't need revenge. You don't need noise. You have control. And that's enough. Step 8. The warrior mindset. You are the gatekeeper of your inner world. No one gets in without your permission. That means no one can make you angry without your consent. No one can drain your energy unless you allow it. No one can pull you off balance unless you hand them the power. Emotional discipline is your shield. It's your armor. It's how you stay focused in a world built to provoke You don't fight every battle. You choose your wars. You don't chase every feeling. You master the flow. That's the essence of strength, because it's not about emotion. It's about discipline, not about passion. About purpose, not about reacting. About rising, closing, and transition. You've learned that emotional discipline isn't suppression. It's self-respect. It's how you protect your peace, your focus, and your mission. You've taken command of your inner world. Now, it's time to extend that power outward, to master how you respond to the world's chaos with clarity and calm. You've built control. Chapter 9. Emotional Mastery. In real life is where the theory either lives or dies. You can read about pauses and resets until your brain is full, but if you don't apply them when it matters, nothing changes. This chapter is the field manual. Practical, brutal, effective. You have a choice. That's the first rule. Every time something happens, you have a choice. That's the key. We built the habit. See the gap. Pause, reframe, redirect. Now we use it where life actually hits. Arguments, leadership, relationships, failure. This is where emotional mastery pays rent. Argument, win the outcome. Not the moment. Most people treat arguments like fights to win. They score points. They prove who's right. They explode. That's short-term victory and long-term loss. When an argument heats, do this. Identify the trigger. Notice the tightness in your chest, the quickening breath, the thought, I must be right. Pause 2 seconds. Literally stop. Breathe in. Breathe out. Reframe. Ask, what outcome do I want? Defense or resolution? Ego or result? Act from clarity. Speak less. Ask more. State the mission, not the grievance. You don't need their permission to be calm. You don't need to prove yourself in every debate. It's not about being soft. It's about being strategic. It's not about anger. It's about discipline. When you choose the long game, you win more than the moment. Clarity before reaction. Always, leadership, emotions are signals. Not orders. Leaders are people managers and emotion managers. When pressure spikes, the team watches the leader first. If the leader reacts, the team panics. If the leader pauses, the team steadies. In leadership scenarios, see the signal. Emotions and others are information. Not threats. Own your space. 2-second reset before you respond to crises. Model composure. Say less, plan more. Give clear steps. Redirect energy. Turn frustration into a to-do list. Turn blame into learning. You have a choice. You decide whether you lead a storm or cause one. That's the discipline of command. It's not about charisma. It's about consistency. When the room calms, work starts. When the leader breaks, everything breaks. Be the steady point. Be the anchor. Clarity before reaction. Always. Relationships. Protecting peace. Building trust. Relationships fall apart by small, repeated reactions. A sharp tone. A passive-aggressive text. A withdrawal. These are the micro-betrayals that erode trust. Action steps for relationship mastery. Pause before reply. 2 seconds. Then consider long-term value. Use the reframe. This isn't happening to me. It's happening for me. Turn attack into insight. Ask a clarifying question. What did you mean by that? Seek truth. Don't invent story. Repair fast. If you overreacted, own it. Say nothing clumsy. Say, I reacted. I'll do better. You don't need permission to respect yourself and others. You don't need to be right to be loved. It's not about avoiding conflict. It's about choosing the right conflict at the right time. Discipline preserves love. Discipline builds trust. When you protect peace, you create safety. When you create safety, people show up. Clarity before reaction. Always. Failure. The reset button of growth failure is a test. Not a sentence. The instinct is shame. The reflex is to hide or lash out. Those reactions bury lessons. They stall growth. Use failure as a training ground. Pause and label. This is disappointment. This is data. Reframe the narrative. What did this teach me? Convert loss into instruction. Design the corrective. Small specific steps. Not vague promises. Execute with humility. Try again with better strategy, not louder emotion. Failure doesn't define you. Reaction does. It's not about perfection. It's about resilience. You have a choice, collapse or recombine. That's the key. When you master how you fall, you master how you rise. Clarity before reaction. Always the 4-step real-world formula. Repeat until reflex. This is your program. Memorize it, repeat it. Make it instinct. Identify the trigger, body signal, thought, tone. Pause 2 seconds. Breathe. Interrupt the automatic. Reframe the meaning. Ask higher questions, act from clarity. Precise, calm, intentional. You have a choice. You always have a choice. You don't need their permission to choose. Calm. You don't need their approval to hold your ground. It's not about emotionlessness, and it's about leadership of self. It's not about anger. It's about discipline. Micro practices to build real-life mastery. Do these daily and watch instinct change. Morning declaration. Clarity before reaction. Always. Say it aloud. Trigger log. Write 3 moments where you paused and won the day. 2-minute reflection. After a heated moment, spend 2 minutes asking what you learned. Practice with small things. Train on tiny triggers. Traffic. Delays, interruptions. Small wins compound. You're training a nervous system. It takes reps. It takes time. But every practiced pause becomes a muscle. Every disciplined response becomes an identity. Closing and transition, you have practiced the gap. You have learned to pause, reframe, and act. Now you've seen how it saves arguments, strengthens teams, heals relationships, and turns failure into fuel. Emotional mastery in real life is not mystical. It's methodical. It's repeatable. It's the quiet discipline of choosing clarity over chaos. You have a choice. That's the key. You don't need their permission. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to practice. You've put the tools into the field. You've begun to command your moments. Next, we step into the final core skill, staying calm when the whole world explodes. Chapter 10. The Calm Within. Chaos true mastery isn't about living a quiet life. It's about staying quiet inside the noise, because chaos isn't going away. Pressure isn't going away. People will still test you. Life will still swing hard. But the person who stays calm wins. You can't control the storm. You can control your stance. That's the key. This is the final principle. When you own your reaction, you own the room. Stillness is not weakness. It's power under control in a world addicted to noise. Stillness looks strange. Everyone's rushing to respond, to react, to post, to prove. But the calm person, the one who breathes, observes, and waits, that's the dangerous one. That's the one who cannot be manipulated. You have a choice. You can be the slave of every impulse, or the master of every moment. The difference is stillness. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing the right thing from the right state. It's clarity in motion, calm action. That's what separates those who crumble from those who command. The battlefield of chaos shows up everywhere. The workplace, the home, the mind. You can't escape it. You can only learn to move through it. At work, chaos looks like pressure, deadlines, expectations, failure. At home, chaos looks like emotion, tension, argument, misunderstanding. In the mind, chaos looks like overthinking, loops of what-ifs and regrets. In every case, the rule is the same. Pause before participation. You don't need to jump into every storm. You don't need to fix every fire. You don't need their permission to stay calm. That's the key. When you pause, you rise above. When you breathe, you reset control. When you don't react, chaos loses its grip. The calm leader. Every great leader has one thing in common: composure. They move slowly when everyone else rushes. They speak last when everyone shouts first. They project control, not emotion. Because here's the truth. When people lose control, they look to whoever hasn't. That's leadership. Not title, not rank, not volume, just calm presence. You have a choice every day. Be the spark or be the still point. The still point always wins. When chaos hits, your calm becomes contagious. Your team mirrors you. Your energy sets the tone. That's how you own the room. Not by dominance, by centered gravity. Remember this. It's not about being emotionless, and it's about being emotionally commanding. It's not about suppressing your feelings. It's about directing them. Stillness doesn't mean silence. Stillness means power under discipline. How to build. Calm in real time. Calm isn't a personality trait. It's a trained response, and you train it in the small moments. Here's your blueprint. When pressure spikes, slow your breath. One deep inhale. One controlled exhale. You're telling your body, we're safe, because your nervous system listens before your mind does. Observe before opinion. Before reacting, ask, what's actually happening right now? Don't guess. Don't assume. See the truth beneath the noise. Speak last. Every second you delay your reaction, you collect more data. The one who waits always responds with precision. Detach from outcome. Do your best. Release the rest. You can't control everything, and you don't need to. Calm thrives in surrender, not control. Reset through movement. Walk, stretch, step away. Calm doesn't live in tension. Stillness is active. It's a decision, not a freeze. This is how you stay centered in chaos. Not by hiding from it, by mastering yourself in it. Because when you own your reaction, you own the moment. The discipline of internal silence. When chaos surrounds you, your thoughts will race. What do I do? What will happen? What if I fail? That's the noise of fear. You fight it with silence. Silence is the reset switch, not outer silence, inner silence, the space between stimulus and response. You have a choice. To panic or to pause, to react or to reflect. The undisciplined mind reacts to every spark. The trained mind watches, waits, then acts. That's emotional mastery. That's real control. You don't need their permission to slow down. You don't need the world's pace to define yours. It's not about running faster. It's about standing stronger. When you hold your center, the chaos burns itself out. The calm warrior. Think of a warrior on the battlefield. Arrows flying, dust rising, screams everywhere, but his breathing is steady. His eyes are sharp. His movements deliberate. That's calm under fire. That's discipline in motion. He doesn't let fear dictate his blade. He doesn't let noise dictate his aim. He trusts his training. He trusts his composure. That's the same mindset you need in your life. Because every argument, every setback, every betrayal, That's your battlefield. You have a choice. To panic like everyone else, or to lead yourself like a warrior. That's the key. When others lose it, you gain ground. When they react, you rise. When they explode, you exhale. That's the calm within chaos. That's the mark of mastery. Daily drills for calm control morning. Command before your day starts. Repeat. Today I own my reaction. Controlled chaos practice. When something small goes wrong, don't react. Smile. Breathe. That's your rep.end of day review. Ask, where did I lose my calm today? Where did I keep it? Adjust. Train again tomorrow. Silence ritual. 10 minutes a day. No phone, no noise. Just breathe and listen to nothing. That's how you sharpen stillness. Calm is not gifted. It's built, and every day gives you another brick, the final truth true. Mastery isn't built in peace. It's revealed in chaos. Anyone can be calm when nothing's happening. Real. Control shows up when everything's falling apart. When you can walk through storms with steady breath. When you can stand in noise and stay centered. When you can see clearly while others flinch. That's power. You don't need their permission to be grounded. You don't need the world's approval to move slowly. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. Remember this forever. When you own your reaction, you own the room. That's emotional mastery. That's the calm within chaos. You've built the pause. You've reframed the story. You've learned the discipline of silence. You've earned this level. Calm command. But we're not done. Mastery isn't about control alone. It's about creation. You've owned the storm. Every day will test you. The world will provoke, challenge, and trigger you, because that's what the world does. But now, you have 2 seconds. 2 seconds to breathe before you break. 2 seconds to choose power over impulse. In those seconds, you decide who you are. Not your anger, not your fear, not your past. You. The 2-second reset isn't a trick. It's a weapon. A tool to master emotion, build composure, and walk through chaos with calm authority. So here's your challenge. For the next 24 hours, catch yourself in every emotional reaction. Pause, breathe, choose. Do it once, and you'll feel control. Do it daily, and you'll become unstoppable. You don't need more time. You just need those 2 seconds. Own them, and you'll own your life.